This is the Joya World Ensemble playing our pre-platform music. Please give them another hand. All right, we have a few people walking in, so I'll give them a few more seconds. Come on in, sit down. Welcome, 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 everybody. It's August. It's Members Speak Month, where we get to learn from our fellow members, so I hope you're excited. All right. Good morning, everyone. And good morning to everyone joining us on the live stream. Welcome to the Ethical Society of St. Louis. Whether you're here in person or online, you are a part of our community, and we're glad you're here. My name is Sean O'Hara. My pronouns are he, him, but we accept you for simply being a human being. I am the volunteer host for Platform today. So that our program is not interrupted, please check your devices are turned off. Thank you. And to begin our gathering this morning, please welcome the Joya World Percussion Ensemble, who will perform a Brazilian samba. Thank you. Back up on the mic, there we go. Who needs a morning coffee after that, guys? Thank you. All right. The ethical education core values are relevant to all of our lives. During the school year, we ask a young member of our community to read them to remind us of our shared commitments. Since the SEEK program is on summer break, I will find my inner child and read them today. Thank you. My wife says I find it pretty regularly. All right. Every person is important and unique. Every person deserves to be treated fairly and kindly. I can learn from everyone. I am a part of this earth. I cherish it and all the life upon it. I learn from the world around me using my senses, mind, and feelings. I am a member of the world community, which depends on the cooperation of all people for peace and justice. I can learn from the past to build for the future. I am free to question. I am free to choose what I believe. I accept responsibility for my choices and actions, and I strive to live my values. Thank you. All right. Opening words is an opportunity for members to speak about something that is important to them or that they wish to share with our congregation. And it is our chance to get to know our members better. Today, David Brown will be offering opening words. Please give him a hand.
Good morning. My name is David Brown. Like many of you, I was raised in a good Christian home. Mine in particular was a fundamentalist version of that. We believed that God inspired every word in the Bible and they were to be followed exactly. But in my early 20s, I no longer held those beliefs. Later in my 20s, I found the Unitarians and found that to be a much more refreshing and open understanding of our human condition. So for 30 years, I was a member of the Unitarian Universalist, particularly at Elliott Unitarian Chapel here in Kirkwood, or there in Kirkwood. And I was on a lot of committees, held leadership positions, and so forth. Then about 20 years ago, I met and married my wife, Sherry Green, and we decided to come to the Ethical Society, which was just a tad more secular, but similar in so many ways. And we'd both been on a lot of committees and leadership positions here as well. The first committee is sort of ancient history in a way. It was called E-Society. That's lowercase e, capital S, Society. And we were the ones that maintained the computer systems, the networks, and the website. Well, we've hired most of that out these days. Matthew Heil, whom we met on that committee, is still serving as our volunteer webmaster. But a lot of things changed in the 20 years, but then there's some things that haven't changed. We come here because we want to do good. We want to do good for ourselves, for our other people, and for the world. So those are motivations to come here, but we want to do that as humans without allegiance to a supernatural being. So we are on what I call the non-belief spectrum. And so we differ a lot in exactly what our beliefs are, but it doesn't really matter. We're good without God. So ethical societies and the Unitarians too have been really very active in social action throughout their history. And in the 1960s, there were a number of Unitarians who went to the South to register black voters, black citizens, so they could vote. And at least one of them was martyred in doing that. Here, members of this ethical society sat at lunch counters that used to be in some of the department stores, and they would sit at lunch counters with their black friends, asked to be served to put pressure on the management to help break down the color barrier. So those were, and in fact, Billy Tino and Joyce Best were both participants in that. And so we've also protested the war in Vietnam. Many of you were born after that, but for some of us it was a big deal. The war in Iraq, and a lot of other issues, gun control, reproductive rights, and LGBTQ plus rights. Those are all issues that we have taken stands on. So people here, some want to be very active, and go out to protest publicly. Some don't want to do that. Some want to work quietly and do good in the ways that they can. And others are happy to be a member of an organization that supports those kinds of issues. At other points in their life, they may feel differently, but whatever. I've done all of those in my many years of being involved. And, you know, I have sat through and listened to many sermons at the Unitarian Church and platform addresses here. And, you know, that has just made me much more sensitive to the social issues that plague us these days. So I want to mention a couple of other things that I'm doing currently that are two very different things, just to show you some of the kind of things that people do here. So one of the things is participation with working with immigrants and refugees through the International Institute. We've actually gone there as a group, taken food, have lunch with refugees, and particularly engage them in conversation just to help them build more confidence in talking to Americans. We have adopted 2 families that came here. We made a 3-month commitment to show them the ropes of how to live in our society. I still actually have contact with those families today, and they've been here for 5 years and are applying for citizenship. Once in a winter during the pandemic, we got a $5,000 grant that we used to buy food and make deliveries of food once a month for 6 months to 6 different families. So we've done a number of things as a group, and some of that is as individuals. Right now, there are a lot of opportunities at the International Institute, and I'll be glad after a platform to describe some of those to you. But another thing that I'm involved in that's very much more of a social thing is a group, you know, that we formed because people had common interests. We've actually had a drumming group in the past, by the way. And the group I'm talking about, Joe Corrigan in like 2008, had a fundraiser that involved a bike ride on the Katy Trail. That turned into a group that we now call the Ethicyclists. We ride every month, and during riding season, on a Saturday morning, we'll do 20 to 25 miles and have lunch. And the lunch is kind of nice because we end up in some nice discussions. It's a good way to meet other people. We invite you to join us if you're interested and able to do that. We actually have 2 rides in August. One next weekend, we're going to be riding in the Alton area, Alton, Illinois. We'll have lunch at Fast Eddie's and ride around and see a few things in Alton. Then on the 26th of August, we're going to start at Stacy Park in Olivet, and we'll be riding to Tower Grove Park, where the Festival of Nations will be held by the International Institute. That's one of their major fundraisers. So we'll go there and have an ethnic lunch and then ride back to Stacy Park. So we hope you join us. I'm going to be downstairs or here after platform. I'll grab a yellow mug, and I'll be glad to explain these activities to you if you're interested in participating and joining us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for reminding us of our values, David. All right, we will move on to our second musical selection. Please welcome again Joya World Percussion Ensemble for your second espresso shot, musical selection, a Caribbean Calypso. Enjoy.
your instruments where they are.
All right. Give them another round of applause. All right. I feel like my brain might be too excited for this next moment, but meditation and mindfulness have been shown to benefit focus, introspection, and emotional regulation. Before we begin our main address, I invite you to sit comfortably and take several deep, slow breaths for 1 minute to clear your mind and calm your body. Thank you. Our speaker today for the week of Members Speak Month is an Emmy Award-winning TV producer and filmmaker. By day, she manages TV commercial productions for a Fortune 100 company, and in her spare time, she enjoys creating films, photography, and art. She started her production company, Thespis Media, in 2014 in Cleveland with her husband, Byron. Please join me in warmly welcoming Ethical Society member Hollie Brubaker, who will introduce the video. Thank you, Hollie.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Hollie Brubaker. My pronouns are she and her. I have been a member here since March. I am a filmmaker and TV producer, but in my late 20s and 30s, that was not the most interesting thing about me. Apparently, the status of my uterus seemed to be everybody's business. Back then, I would sheepishly avoid answers to when are you going to have a baby? Total strangers had no idea what I was going through, and certainly their well-meaning ways to connect with me weren't intended to make me run to the bathroom and cry, but that was still the result. From a very young age, girls are taught that the worst nightmare is going to be growing up to be fat and childless. Oh my gosh. Oh no, I just realized I'm literally living every woman's worst nightmare. But seriously, you'll see in my film how I begin to deconstruct the notions that woman equals mother and how parenthood is the ultimate goal of a happily married couple. In cutting this film together, there was a lot that I had to cut out. And some sections just didn't fit into the shorter format in order to get into festivals. So I'd like to share with you a couple of things that didn't make it in the film. And these are, if I were imagining a time that I could go back and have a snarky comeback to some of these questions. Trigger warning, this is my stand-up alter ego, so may not be like normal church appropriate. Okay. It's so nice to meet you. Do you have any kids? No, but thank you for reminding me that my uterus is an inhospitable environment, and your entire first impression of me is solely based on 5 years of failed infertility treatments and the trauma around that. Okay, that's supposed to make you laugh. Okay, it's funny. I've come to a point where it's okay to be, it is funny to me now, if I could. You don't want kids? Do you hate them? No, I actually love buying all the random magazines and popcorn fundraisers because that makes me the cool aunt spending all my money on your kids. And My nieces and nephews are my excuse to be able to go see kids' movies and to play at Chuck E. Cheese, because I am, after all, still a big kid. But won't you regret not having kids? Well, now here's where I have a theory about that. The term regret, that's supposed to be an affectionate term for toddlers, but I think it's a code word for parents. And I'm a millennial, and the cartoon from the 90s is not a comedy to me, it's a cautionary tale. No regrets, it's fine. No, but those little scenes were meant to make light of some of the heavy feelings that have come up for me with this topic. My goal with this film is to turn the tables on the phrases we use to get to know each other, assumptions that we make about people, and to humanize the experience of female identifying people. Words matter. How someone talks about and to child-free people is directly tied to the narrative that they are familiar with. So hearing more stories like mine and all types of child-free people will help change some of those assumptions, and just maybe gain more acceptance and understanding. We can change the narrative, you guys. If you need a new icebreaker, instead of the old, do you have kids? Or what do you do for a living? Or in St. Louis, I still don't understand because I'm new here, but where do you go to high school? Instead, you could ask, what are you passionate about? What is your favorite movie or TV? Or the really fun one, what do you think of the placement of Q in the alphabet? You can learn a lot about someone. I've used those before, and I will tell you, it's way more fun to mingle at a party with a stranger talking about their dirt biking adventures or chatting about the plot of Outlander than it is to just bumble through awkward small talk and pleasantries. Attitudes toward childless and child-free have begun to shift in the past few years, but it's still very much looked upon as sad and lonely. Or worse, selfish. But my story is a happy one, and I hope this film is received with an open heart. It's my honor to share my story with you today, and maybe starting this conversation will help someone else going through a similar journey. Thank you.
Babies, the next logical step. I had my college degree, my career, my husband, my house. The next step is to fill it with babies. And everyone thought it was okay to tell me that.
Hearing the things that people were saying to you? Like, what makes you think you can say that? I have never seen Byron so upset.
This was me at my 9th birthday party. This little girl had no idea how many twists and turns would happen in her future, but she had big dreams.
Growing up, I really thought that by default, I would eventually add the title of mom to my identity. The idea of being childless just didn't occur to me.
No one used to talk about it, and women who chose it would never say it out loud because, God, they'd be just, vilified. I was really looking for acceptance that I wasn't going to have a child.
For all of Hollie's life, she had always said that she was going to move to Hollywood. Whether it was performing in church, college theater, high school theater, community theater, it didn't matter.
I always wanted to be in acting. If it wasn't acting, I learned behind the scenes.
When I went off to college, Poppy was still finishing high school, and that's when our lives took different paths. She soon got engaged and married her high school sweetheart, while I was studying, traveling, and living that college life. Then I met Byron when he auditioned for the play I was directing.
He was this mysterious, quiet kid, didn't really talk very much. He was always shy. And for someone
as outgoing as I am, that energy was like a magnet to me.
I decided to get Hollie a Christmas ornament. It was a star that had the word love on it. It was the first time that we told each other that we loved each other. Neither of us were in any hurry to have kids. We were being safe. There were expectations of society that we got married. It was time to have kids next. We weren't trying to do that immediately.
It was about 3 years into our marriage that we started to feel pressure to have kids. Then one day, baby fever just hit me. I told Byron that I thought I was ready to go off birth control, and let's just see what happens.
I had my newborn daughter, and I had my young son, and I had my best friend. And my best friend announced, I want to be a mom too. And here we are going to be on our motherhood journey together. And we're going to raise our babies together. And like, it was going to be awesome.
After 2 years of trying on our own, it was pretty obvious that we would need some help with fertility. So I started seeing a specialist, and I got sucked into a baby-making vortex. All of a sudden, it was like this whirlwind of like some bizarre Twilight Zone that I entered, and I was not prepared. Every conversation is about pregnancy, getting pregnant, being pregnant, what happens when you get pregnant.
Just the general atmosphere in any social situation, whether people knew us that well or not, just by looking at you, they could have like just met you at this particular party, but I can tell you would make great parents. Like, she would be out with friends and then come home and tell me about something that somebody had said, constantly offering her advice on diet or times of day, keeping the schedule to track your ovulation, like any sort of tips and encouragement people could offer.
There were some awkward and absurd and intrusive ways that people were getting all up in my business, asking about whether or not I was gonna have a kid.
You aren't a real woman unless you are a
Do
mother.
you hate kids? Just keep trying. It'll magically happen.
But your baby could change the world.
You'll change your mind.
It's different when they're your own children.
But who's gonna take care of you when you're old?
Won't you regret not having kids?
What would your legacy be without children?
Your baby would be so cute though.
It's the next step after marriage.
Being a mom is the only thing that matters.
Don't worry, if you lose some more weight, you'll get pregnant.
Have you tried this sex position?
Don't you know you're supposed to finish first and then hold your legs up for 20 minutes?
Don't you think it's kind of selfish to not be a parent?
But you'd be a great mom.
I mainly remember her weight loss and taking drugs for that, but also jittery, and it was like increasing her anxiety, emotions, mood swings.
There's so much more to when are you gonna have a baby than just one day popping out a baby. We were constantly fighting about money, savings, not having savings, all the debt that we were in, the debt that we would probably go in order to have a child.
When Hollie was going through her fertility treatments, every month she grieved again. Because every month she hoped that this would be it, and every month it wasn't, and so she grieved the dream of that month. All I could see is that my best friend's heart had been broken. Like, and not just broken, but shattered. And she was a shell of a person.
I got really sucked into a dark place because I didn't know any differently. When we first bought this house, it was under kind of a duress.
We had lots of arguments during that time.
I was putting so much pressure on him because I'm like, I can't have a baby. I at least need to have a house. I can prove to people. Looking back on it now, it's kind of funny, but I had so many hormones and so much emotion going on that I needed something to kind of look to the future. This room was once a dream, therapy for me, I don't know, hope. And tomorrow we're putting the house on the market. When I look back at myself in that video of the nursery that I had painted with the tree and the person that I was, it's so hard to recognize that person anymore. That person who was so sad and heartbroken. I just remember I had to prove to everyone that I was a real woman by carrying toddlers around and of course having a baby shower like all of my friends, and I wanted to have a house full of kids in order to participate in the family activities because all of our friends were having kids, and we got to a point where we weren't part of how they spent their time anymore. I just remember it being such a whirlwind of me trying so hard to desperately find something that would make me normal to my friends and family instead of just crazy Aunt Hollie.
So the one thing nobody talks about when they talk about the infertility journey is grief. Oh my God, when you love somebody so much, it is so hard, and you do grieve for them and you grieve with them.
When I finally came to the realization for myself that what I was putting my body through felt so abnormal, through all the losing weight, gaining weight, the medications, it all just didn't feel right anymore.
And that, I think, is what wrecked me the most, because I saw this woman who, for her entire life, was so vibrant and so alive, and that all of her work accomplishments, all of her fun accomplishments, all of her travels, all of the goals that she had set and then conquered, all of a sudden meant nothing to society and the world around her because she couldn't have babies. And that diminished her.
And looking back now, I can see that we were experiencing grief in our own ways.
I was not only grieving the loss of the idea that my best friend and I would have kids together, I was grieving the loss of my fucking best friend. That light had gone out. And that sucked so hard. And I wasn't sure I'd ever see that light come back.
So we decided to become foster parents, and we went through the entire 12-week training, and things got pretty stressful.
The day that we were going to finalize everything, I had the honor of being the witness as she signed the final paperwork to become foster parents. The tension that day was palpable. We are getting ready to walk into the building, and that's when I just hear Byron just start to unload everything that he had been holding in. Byron was definitely not gonna walk in there and sign those papers with her, and he just disappeared. He walked off, and we were stunned for a few moments because it was just like, oh my gosh, we came here with this intention. That is definitely not happening now. And what is the status of Hollie's marriage?
And you know, I wrote down my feelings and he wrote down his feelings, and at some point he was like, we can't do this right now. And I was like, yes we can, and I was like pushing it and pushing it and pushing it.
I think society much more expects women to have a maternal instinct, and men don't need to have a paternal instinct, but then they are thrown in the situation and have to suddenly be fathers. I've often felt that I was a late bloomer. Other people our age were starting to have kids, and I was not feeling any paternal instinct or wanting to hold and cuddle or play or be in contact with babies.
I had tunnel vision about me being a mom, to fit in, to be accepted, not necessarily tunnel vision about being a parent, if that makes sense.
If more people actually experienced the training you have to go through to be a foster care or adoptive parents, childhood development theories, if more people were actually educated about it before just falling into being parents, I think a lot more people would reconsider whether they want to move forward with having children.
So many couples don't find their solid ground again. It was a lot of work. When I was in the thick of it, at my wit's end about not becoming a foster parent after Byron had, given the ultimatum, it was very soon after, that my boss had this motivational video that talked about celebrating what's right in the world and not focusing on what you don't have. And that opened up my mind to think about all the blessings that I've had.
And that's when ambivalence begins to say, you know what, if I have a baby, great. But if I don't, it could be okay.
There's so many groups now where you can get involved and hear other people's stories and find support as a non-parent living in this world. People actually are living their lives not being parents.
And now we're all about, coming together and finding your tribes. Let them know that more than anything, they're not alone. Somewhere there's a woman who feels just like they do. And to also acknowledge their right to be. Their right to be. That's a good way to say it.
In the childless and child-free communities that I've joined, the endless prying questions of strangers are part of a proverbial bingo card for those of us who dare to live against the presumed natural order of things. We collect these tired ideas of regret and selfishness as virtual badges of honor. You start to unlearn things and you start to make decisions for yourself and realize what you can contribute to the world that can be amazing, that can change someone else's life. We can write books, we can create films, and that is a different way of having a legacy. And it's not necessarily bad, it's just a different kind of legacy. And the pro-natalism culture that we live in doesn't necessarily value that, but we have come to value it within ourselves. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. I had a lot of dreams tied up in that nursery that I painted in the old house. But here in my new place, this space represents all the things that I have, instead of the things I don't have.
We are the aunts of the world. We are the godmothers. I have met so many childless and child-free women who are pediatric nurses, social workers, school teachers. They love children, they work with children, they just don't have any of their own.
A couple can be a family. It was an acceptance. Like, why do I want motherhood so bad? Hollie and Byron are a family without kids. The way they balance each other, the way they nurture each other, the way they take care of each other in ways that nobody else has to understand.
Byron and I were lucky enough to pull together to look at our values and see what similarities we have in order to find a future together. Sometimes I like to say plants are the new pets and pets are the new babies. I love being able to be the fun aunt that spoils my nieces and nephews. I couldn't put that kind of time, money, or effort behind them if I were also a full-time mom myself. There are a lot of things in the world that women put great care into other than motherhood. But you'd be a great mom. Bingo. you can have deeper relationships and have so much meaning in your life and not be a parent.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Hollie and Byron. I think it's just a classic story of finding your own individual way against societal expectations. So thank you again. Give them another hand. All right, we're on to collections and announcements. The Welcome team will now take up a collection. If you are moved to make a donation today, we appreciate anything you may be able to offer. Like all nonprofit organizations, we rely on the generosity of our members and friends to ensure our community can keep providing our many free programs. If you don't have cash with you today and you feel inclined, you can donate at ethicalstl.org/donate or use the QR code on the screen that will pop up behind me in a moment. If you are interested in becoming a member of the Ethical Society, our Membership Plus Program Manager is Courtney Scott Camerata. She is here today and can answer your questions about membership or programming. Also, her email is on the back of the program. Meanwhile, we would love to keep you informed about future events at the Ethical Society of St. Louis. If you'd like to join our weekly newsletter, use the QR code above me to sign up. You can also sign up on our website under the heading Follow Us Online. Announcements for most things that happen at the Society come through email. If you have signed up and are not receiving the emails, please reach out to Nancy Jelinek in the main office, her email is also on the back of the program, to ensure you're on the distribution list. We do have one announcement, and that is today after platform. There is an ice cream social, come one and come all, for ice cream after platform. There is Italian ice for those who are lactose intolerant. We will now have our third musical selection. We're also having a Q&A with Hollie and Byron after as well, just so you're aware. But you can get ice cream as well. We will now move on to our third musical selection. It is an Afro-Cuban Mozambique rhythm. Just give them some time to get on stage. If you want to head off, you can. Or if you want to play off afterwards, that's fine. Okay. All right. Thank you all for being here today. If you'd like to stay and ask Hollie and Byron any questions, please stick around in the auditorium. They are happy to talk with you. There's chairs right here. We'll be doing a Q&A like we used to. There's also an ice cream social downstairs in the Becker room, sponsored by the Caring Team. So make sure after the Q&A you go get some ice cream. There is time for both. There's also coffee, as always, downstairs. If you are new to the Ethical Society and would like to be approached for conversation, please have your coffee in a yellow mug. New visitors are also welcome to join for the ice cream social. Whichever you're going for, just follow the crowd downstairs, down this hallway. And there is also an elevator on that side as well. Visitors are also invited to check out our Visitors Connect table for more information about the Ethical Society. We hope today's gathering helped you feel more connected to other people, gave you new and interesting ideas, and inspired you to think about the values which guide your life. To end your program, I invite you to greet those on either side of you if you'd like, and I hope you all have a great week. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.
Usually when I'm home, I don't think I need to connect to the internet. Enter the network security key. What's that? that might have been me testing out my laptop here. I just did that, just to make sure that I don't get any surprises next week. No, I'm going to take the remote mic and I'm going to move over there. Just come over here to advance. Running around like this, I can have my laptop and look at what's projected up there. There might be there's a little stand in the back, an auxiliary stand. Yeah, to put the laptop away.
Check,
so
check.
I have to come to the center to do that.
All right.
You could even move the laptop. So would it be
All right, you just want to raise your voice. Okay.
I don't.
Yeah. Testing.
All right. Let's just sound check your guys' mic real quick. Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. All right, I will officially begin the Q&A. Thank you again, guys, for your platform today and the touching video. Does anyone have a first question, or do you guys have a thing you want to say first? Or
First of all, for the few of you who are still left, I want to say thank you to Mary Ann. I forgot to have a shout out that she helped me produce it and bring it all together with writing. So
right, shout out Mary Ann.
shout out to Mary Ann.
All right, anyone have a question? Raise your hand. No questions? You guys are here for, there we go, okay.
Hi there, and I was in Cleveland when you were. I wish we had met. Was there a tipping point at which you decided no more trying, no more listening?
Yes.
And how did that come about?
The tipping point, well, we alluded to it a little bit in there with Byron and I in our big fight, like that just became, because I was pushing and pushing, okay, get a house. Okay, no, we'll be foster parents. Okay, no. And at the point when he finally was like, dude, like, let's just take a break. Like, just wait and see what happens. We can always try again, like, next year or whatever. Like I said in the film, I was going to work every day. Some days I would be, when you're in the thick of it, you're running to the bathroom to cry because someone says something random that just totally triggers you into thinking, oh my God, I'm terrible. I'm never gonna have a, whatever. And my boss had a motivational speech like video that he wanted to share with all of us because work was also pretty stressful at the time. And there was it was like during the recession time of 2011, 2012. It was past the recession, but there was still a lot of layoffs and things. And so it was like really toxic at work. And so he did this video, and it was with this National Geographic photographer. His name is DeWitt Jones, and it was called Celebrate What's Right with the World. And that day, watching that film was the light bulb for me when I went home and I just started really thinking about how good my life was right now. And I could celebrate what's going on right now and not think about all the things I'm missing out on or think that I'm missing out on, which would be things that my friends were doing, which was parenthood things and birthday parties and baby showers was a really big one. I was really well, everyone's getting a baby shower. I want a baby shower. Like, why the heck was I so focused on that? But we got tunnel vision during that. And so when I started to take that step back and peel back some of those layers and realize I have time to be doing whatever I want. I can sleep in, like Byron and I can, and then we started having the conversations too about, with the tipping point. Do you have much to speak on that? Yeah.
When we had gone through the training to be adoptive parents, I think one of the main things I kept thinking about was our families, our support system that I didn't feel like they were that supportive or would be open. Like, if we're adopting, there are going to be social workers constantly checking up. And I don't think our this was before the pandemic, back in 2011 or something, and I could already see, like, neither of our families would be very receptive to, you can't treat kids like, you're not raising them by spanking and like fear and stuff, like that we wouldn't have really a support system where we could leave the kids with an aunt and uncle or grandma or grandpa or something, where they would be willing to abide by those extra rules and the expectations of the social workers as to how to raise kids who are adopted and maybe come from a worse background or something. So I was just really questioning, like, it's going to be so much on us, and we can't count on other people to help us with it.
And it was triggering, like the fight that and ultimately came out of that was triggering a lot for both of us from childhood trauma, I guess you would call it, but we didn't know it at the time too. But like, you know, things from us and how we grew up and how we wouldn't want to be those types of parents. Not necessarily anything bad about our parents, but the things that we were learning and how we would want to be parents. It would be a totally uphill battle. So, any other questions?
So mine is not a question, it's an apology for my comments before a platform, which now feel really insensitive. And I offered that, my apology, so thank you.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have, because, well, just in general, like, well, thank you for acknowledging, but it's perfectly fine. I've grown such thick skin around the topic that I honestly don't notice anymore, because I put it all in there. You know what I mean? Like I've been able to sort of separate where I was and process that, and just hoping that things will open up the awareness of the topic and the things that people say that are just the first impression, you know? So, but thank you. You don't have to apologize. But on that note, though, I have gotten several apologies from people in my family who just had no clue that the things that they thought were just like well-meaning advice and, you know, very unintentional, funny comments that they thought were funny about our sex life or whatever were just so terribly inappropriate. And so I've had some apologies, and that has actually resulted in, I was just thinking about it today with our cats now, because like my siblings, I have 3 siblings and I have 10 nieces and nephews, so we're always sending gifts and we're always doing, you know, Christmas with them. So I've spent a lot of money on my sister and brother's kids. And this past year now, after making this film, my sister sent a box of cat toys for our cats and like acknowledged like our fur babies are our babies. So so thank you. Yeah, and the note about apologies is, you know, like that's why the conversation has been really rewarding.
Thank you.
Jake, do we have any altar questions? Okay.
I forgot we're still on altar.
I don't really have a question, but I happen to be childless by choice because I'm an adult and I know how to make a choice. But I have, you know, and I'm married, and I think there is a lot of expectation that way. And I have dealt with my questions when people ask me a little differently than you do, but I do try to be funny. Oh, when are you going to have kids? And I would say, and what is the balance in your checkbook? And then when you have, how often do you have sex with your...
Oh, I love that.
How often do you have sex with your husband? And are you on top or the bottom? If you're going to ask me a personal question,
yes.
I'll ask you some too.
Yes.
And then people will laugh, and then maybe they'll think it really wasn't, I don't think it was meant as an inconsiderate question, but sometimes, certainly in your case, I'm so sorry that you were so disappointed with your life's dream. But sometimes people don't realize that they're being inconsiderate. And so sometimes I I jab them back a little bit. So.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I've had a lot of time to try to come up with some of those if I could go back in time and have a snarky response. And that's why I shared a couple there, and I have a whole list. But at the same time, you know, I feel bad because it is part of educating people to know that. So like I'm actually in the moment never do that, you know? And that's why I kind of have this like alter ego of like, okay, well, and that's part of educating people too, if they think about that conversation. And maybe they've gone, you know, they could go back and think of a person that they had a conversation about and realize, oh, I was joking that she should just drink the water because 2 other people are pregnant at work today. You should just drink the water, you'll get pregnant. You know, like all these like random comments people make that they have, you know, they're not really thinking what someone might be going through, so.
Learning moment.
This question really is for Byron. So when I was watching the video, a whole new frame of thought came into my mind about the whole men's perspective, right? And she was very focused on, really it was about community connection, and only realized that in hindsight, right? And when you were there to say, okay, this is the last deal, we're gonna come, and you said, no, no, and all the stuff had been inside you and you never said it. Is it because you were really afraid of your support structure, or that you really, because what I think I got out of the film, well, you didn't have the feelings to wanna have a child? Is that right?
The 5-year-old, you could joke about that. You used to say.
Yeah, when I was in college, I did volunteer at with my same kindergarten teacher that I had. I volunteered in a kindergarten, and I worked in a children's department of a library specifically. So I was working around kids, and I was kind of interested when I was first getting into theater, like doing plays for kids and volunteering at a kindergarten center. Like, I was okay with that age range, and that's why I initially went ahead with like, my dad had been adopted. I have a couple cousins that were adopted. Like, that was perfectly acceptable and fine, and I would like to skip the whole baby stage. I'm okay with kids once they reach about 5 and they can actually have a conversation with you and they're handling certain things for themselves. So I was okay with it. That's why I initially went along with it. I didn't really have I didn't want to be holding and like our nieces and nephews when they were babies and stuff, that her siblings were always trying to push on holiday gatherings. Ultimately, the problem that was really going through my head was the support network was the big thing that I think wasn't being heard, that I was mentioning, like up to the point where we were about to sign the paperwork for that. And as our nieces and nephews got older, like, I mean, it's fine when we get together. Usually they're not super annoying and like, you know, trying to deal with disciplinary things, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I just really want to give you a big hats off for just like standing up, because, you know, when you did that, that created a whole nother mind space for Hollie to be able to kind of reflect around the world too. And then you guys are both free now. And so I just really wanted to say thanks for that. And, you know, I've never had a desire. I've never had a desire, and I never had any pushback. And I never even thought about it as a woman, honestly, to be quite honest with you, because most of my friends don't have any kids either, right?
You're lucky.
You know, and interestingly enough, the thing about it is, Hollie, is that when people would say, do you have kids or do you want to have kids? I say, no, I don't, and I don't want any, and people don't know how to respond to that. it kind of shuts them down a little
Yeah.
bit.
And
Which is
now I am able to say that, but at the time I was like, okay, you know, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of perspectives about, being the childless, person or childless couple that I think a lot of we don't talk about, in society. So I would encourage the development and further growth of, your docu-series or whatever, because it's very interesting, and I think it's very important, especially nowadays, because people are choosing more and more not to have kids.
Yep.
And
I want to also go back to when you were thinking Byron, because I appreciate him being, because I was like, I have to tell this story for a documentary, and I was like, can I interview you? And it was triggering some of those feelings and thoughts again for both of us. So, I mean, even the process of putting the film and retelling our story was kind of bringing up some of that again. And I'm really grateful that Marianne actually was kind of a catalyst to help me as we were forming the story again, and I revisited some stuff to be like, no, it is really important that it is actually a love story. Ultimately, our documentary is a love story, and it's about how we were able to move through that and get past it and still be the two of us in a happy marriage. We're a happy couple. We are a family, the two of us and our pets and our plants and whatever, and our extended family and our chosen family, and so it's just kind of being able to see that and tell that